Wide receiver screen to Snead. He can throw as well. It's a lateral and across the field. He hits Hightower in stride. Down to the 10. Makes a move at the 8. He will score. Touchdown.
The old receiver to running back, just like Peyton drew it up. Welcome in once again alongside the voice of the Saints, Jim Henderson. I'm Juan Kincaid, and I think we're calling that Peyton's "Remember Me" shot now.
Yeah, that comes from a quote from Greg Williams, oddly enough. Greg Williams, before the Super Bowl, in an interview with the Tennessee newspaper, came out and said, we need to put some shots, some "Remember Me" shots on Peyton Manning, just like we did on Kurt Warner and Brett Favre in the playoffs. That might have been one of many things that ticked Sean Payton off about Greg Williams, but there was certainly more to it than that.
I think it's interesting when that play came because, boy, it wasn't a close game. It was a 21-point lead, and the Rams have all but put up the tent. Said basically the game is over. Let's get into the locker room, and Peyton leaves one little reminder for Greg Williams.
Up by 21 in the fourth quarter with the game fully in hand. The Rams had not and would not score in the second half of that game yesterday, and you could see the reaction there of the sideline of Greg Williams and Jeff Fisher. And Jeff Fisher chewed on Greg Williams almost as often as perhaps Sean Payton used to on Rob Ryan.
Thing is, Greg Williams has not been the problem with defense this year to their offense. How about headline number 2? 555 yards means the offensive arsenal was there to see for the Saints yesterday.
Especially Drew Brees, and what a compliment. We've talked about this, the fact that you could not use Brandon Cooks one time, not even throw the ball in his vicinity, and still put up 49 points and have that sort of productivity. But you saw all the weapons on display, all the way from the Saints tight ends to the wide receivers, to the running backs, to Drew Brees, who was typically Drew Brees, completing nearly 78% of his passes to 9 different targets, none of them being Brandon Cooks. So it was an amazing display. And that's the thing, as you mentioned, that's a good defense they were going against. Now, it might be different with the Saints taking the measure of the Rams offense, but this is a good defense that the Saints were able to strafe.
You know, when we came out of training camp, I remember everyone thinking, okay, who's going to be the step-up guy in this receiving core? We thought, okay, Brandon Cooks, because he's done it before. But you're seeing everyone get involved, from Michael Thomas to Brandon Coleman to touchdown. Everyone being involved, 246 yards rushing, 204 yards rushing as well. They had 71 plays to the Rams 52. Let's get you to headline number 3 because we want to talk more about Mark Ingram and Michael Thomas. Redemption for those two players.
Both the way they've come back after essentially a benching for Ingram following his fumbles against Kansas City and Seattle. You saw he's come back with a vengeance. And Michael Thomas as well, when he had the 2 fumbles with the Broncos, he was certainly at the low point of his young career, and he came back just as you expected him to as well. So it's a testimony to their character. It's a testimony to Sean Payton pushing the right buttons and handling both those guys in the right way. And what a year Michael Thomas is having. I mean, he's just leading them in almost every possible category as a receiver. And you know, there's some great rookies on offense in the NFL this year, a couple of them in Dallas, but I put Michael Thomas right up there with any of them.
No doubt. And listen, we wondered who would be the next Marcus Colston. He looked the part coming in training camp. He is certainly playing to that level, if not more. How about headline number 4? Special teams still shaky. Not bad. Look, Will Lutz was okay.
Well, all he had to do was kick extra points.
Get it high enough.
Not that hasn't always been extremely successful, but yes, he was only kicking extra points. The Saints never failed in the red zone. You know, they're 100% in the red zone scoring touchdowns. Some of his kickoffs might have been a little suspect, but still, the main problem was covering kickoffs, as this occurs here with Benny Cunningham, who's pretty good, by the way, third in the NFL coming into yesterday's game. Behind Cordero Patterson and Devin Hester. So he's a pretty good return man, but that set Sean Payton off. And then, of course, the muff punt by Eddie Lee. And, you know, I really think, Tommy Lee Lewis. I was thinking of Eddie Lee Ivory. Tommy Lee Lewis, the Tommy Lee Lewis muff punt. And that's something that's got to be cleaned up. To me, the Saints are going to have to draft a returner next year. Now, they tried to do it with Marcus Murphy as a 7th-round pick. That hasn't worked out. I think they're going to have to go a little higher than that to truly get someone who has return credentials.
It's been a long time since special teams have been a difference maker, especially returning kicks and punts. How about headline number 5? Defense stabilizes eventually, and we've seen this as a bit of a pattern for this group for the last 5-6 weeks.
The defense has now allowed 6 points or less in 5 of their last 6 games in the second half. So, you know, Dennis Allen has stayed the course. Even with all the injuries at the beginning of the season, he never panicked. They've gotten people back. They've really done a good job now stopping the run, especially with the middle of that defensive line with Sheldon Rankins being back. Nick Fairley had his stops yesterday. They've done a really good job. Tyler Davison as well. They've done a lot better job in the middle of that defensive line stopping the run than they had recently. And so everything is on the upswing defensively, and when these two areas can come together and maybe eventually some help from the special teams, this is a team that could be what, with only 5 games left in the season, what we all envisioned its possibility of being.
No doubt. And Peyton said the key to this defense resurgence is because everyone's finally getting healthy, being Bro and, of course, Sheldon Rankins as well. All right, up next, Sean Vazana is taking us to school on a bus on the complete player Mark Ingram has become, with Sunday serving as the latest showcase of his skill set. And everyone wants to know, why can't the Saints do this more often? We'll examine the role of motivation on weekly preparation when we come back.
You're watching the Jim Henderson Black and Gold Review.
Breeze going to throw the screen pass right side. Ingram, he's got running room inside the 10, 5. He'll waltz into the end zone untouched. 21 yards for number 22 and another touchdown.
It is amazing what a couple fumbles can do for a guy's confidence. Sean Vazana joining us now to break down the headlines. And look, Mark Ingram has been a bit of a revelation lately. He's playing the way we thought he could play.
He's really coming to his own, there's no doubt about it. Who is that guy wearing number 22 for the Saints? On this very show, we've diagrammed what has gone wrong with Mark Ingram, but after the best stretch of perhaps his career, we're taking a closer look at what is going right. The key word, complete. He can run, he can catch, he can block. His running has become very versatile. He's effective out of any personnel package. Let's start with the 11 personnel. 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a back. It's 4th and 1. In the second quarter, takes the pitch. He's patient, and then bursts through the seam created by Teron Armstead and Willie Snead. That is a touchdown. 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. Look at that depth. 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Immediately sees the lane, gonna break a tackle, rumbles downhill for 9 yards. Now let's go 13 personnel, jumbo package. 3 tight ends, 1 wide receiver in the back. His first carry of the game. Watch his cut right behind Andrus Peat. And look, it is all effort after that. Angry Mark, as he is called, breaks 1, 2, 3 tackles for an 18-yard gain. Then it's the old 21 base package, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a fullback, and a running back. But look, it's an unbalanced line where Zach Strief is lined up on the left next to Teron Armstead. John Phillips is at right tackle. They run to the strong side. He follows his fullback, and it opens up. Look at that speed on the second level. He can really go. He would gain 61 yards on the play. Now, here's a stat I did not see coming. Ingram is now 12th in the NFL with 721 yards. He leads all running backs in yards per carry at 5.3, a touch.
Well, the offensive line's playing a lot better for him than they did early in the season. He's become such a factor as well in the passing game. I think he's one of the more reliable running backs in the NFL when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. He doesn't have to come off the field on 3rd down any longer for the most part. He gets spelled by Hightower, who's been a really good second punch for them in that regard. But he's just, and you can really see him protecting the football too. On a lot of those runs at the end, he was covering up with both hands. He learned his lesson.
He's in sync with his offensive line. It's like very good chemistry, very good cohesion. But funny you say he's a good receiver out of the backfield, because that's one area where he's really improved his ability out of the backfield. This was Pierre Thomas-esque. Remember, the screen worked so well because of how well he sold it before going out on a route. Now, watch 22. Again, patient, on the snap, 1, 2, turn. Drew Brees drops it down to him. Look at the offensive line. They really sold it. Gets out in front. There was not a single defender in sight. That was 3rd and 17, by the way. Flawless execution. Now, in Sean Payton's offense, a back must be able to pick up the blitz, and Ingram has always done well with this. One play illustrates this perfectly. Keep an eye on 22. Mini play fake, located the blitzer, then sticks, and watch it again. Drew Brees' pass was incomplete right there, but had it not been for that block, Brees' head may have gotten snapped off on that play. Here's another example. Pretty subtle. Reads the blitzer, going to step up. Blitzer doesn't come, so he chips the defensive end, gives big Zach Strief a hand. Brees completes the pass to Kobe Fleener for 31 yards. Ingram has been a completely different player since he was benched mid-game against Seattle. I myself once said, how different would this offense look if someone else got the number of touches he receives? Well, a little motivation never hurt anyone. He battled back and is now on pace to surpass 1,000 yards for the first time in his career.
One thing we've also talked about this season is how we haven't seen Mark Ingram break those runs like most running backs can do. Boy, that's changed. He must have got a quote from someone about what we said.
He's got a 75-yard run, a 61-yard run. He's really done well as far as when he gets to that second level, he just kicks it into that extra gear that we didn't know he had, quite frankly. He gets out in that open field, and he's got a good ability to break tackles as well.
I remember in the past when we would have our criticisms of Mark Ingram, one of the ones we always talked about was he has no special quality.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have size, doesn't have enough speed, doesn't have enough elusiveness, doesn't catch the ball well enough. Well, right now he's doing all those things at a very much above average level.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's been very, very good. Let's get you right to the questions. That's what this show is all about. This one coming from my friend Bayou Buckeye. The Saints players and coaches seem to have played with a chip on their shoulders Sunday against the Rams. Has this been the Saints' problem all along, that they have been playing unmotivated? Good question from Bayou.
They just haven't been playing against Greg Williams and the Rams
If
enough.
we could clone Greg, that might help.
Yeah, if we could just clone Greg, because they will tell you that the reason they played with such alacrity yesterday was the fact that they know they've got their backs up against the wall, that there's no margin for error any longer. Yesterday probably truly was an elimination game for the loser of that game. The Saints weren't about to be eliminated, and they played with that sort of urgency, but there's no question that the Greg Williams factor was huge.
Let me jump in here. That right there, what you just saw, is exactly why Greg Williams and Sean Payton work so well together. I mean, he brought the best out of Sean Payton day in and day out. It was a little bit of alpha on alpha. They clearly didn't like each other, but there was some respect and a lot of testosterone. But, you know, they were able to play like that week in and week out. I mean, Greg Williams kind of brought the best out of Sean Payton. Look what he did when he was across the sideline. That was as motivated as we've seen Sean Payton in a long time. So that's why they work so well together, quite frankly. But, you know, you can't have two competing egos and just the alpha mentality for so long. 3 years is probably the shelf life for something like that.
I thought it was interesting, too, that Sean Payton took over some of the play calling duties yesterday. He had the play sheet in his hand. He truly wanted to have the hammer when it came to putting an offense on the field against Greg Williams' defense.
And that takes us right to our next question. This one coming from Karen Maxwell. If Sean Payton called the plays for the Rams games with so much success, why is he not calling these games to get this team into the playoffs? You know, they're close to a division opportunity here. Why is he not calling the plays more often?
Well, maybe we will see a sharing of the duties after this, but I think for the most part it would truly be because of Greg Williams.
Yeah, and I think Pete Carmichael's done a great job this season. I mean, I think he really has. I mean, Sean Payton has allowed Pete Carmichael to do it this year, and it's allowed him to kind of stay on top of, I guess, situational things that arise in the game. But I think Pete Carmichael's done well. That was personal for Sean Payton. He wanted that. And as you said, Jim, he wanted to drive the hammer home. And I was surprised. The grudge is still that big 5 years later. I really was.
Well, the grudge is not just for Sean Payton against Greg Williams. It's for a lot of the guys on that coaching staff against Greg Williams. Joe Vitt is the closest person on this staff to Sean Payton. He always has been since they've been here. Greg Williams got Joe Vitt suspended. And Joe Vitt is the most popular, I would argue, the most popular assistant coach on this team with the players and his fellow coaches. So Sean Payton wasn't just getting his own revenge. He was getting the revenge for the entire organization and for a lot of his very close coaches.
How much do you think Drew Brees was under the understanding of this is a game that we need to put the hammer down? Because he's not, he and Payton were on the same.
They say, I recall a Zach Streif line that said, you know, it's almost like Drew and Sean, when it comes to game planning, have the same brain. And you could just tell Drew knew how badly Sean wanted this game. And you saw in the way Drew was flawless. I mean, he was flawless yesterday. And that is, as you guys said earlier, that is not a slouch on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams. That is a very good, it's a 6th-ranked defense in the NFL. And they completely dismantled them. And then they out-physicaled them as well. So there was a lot there, no doubt about it.
You said after your commentary, this offense showed what they can do. So how do you bottle this and take it to the next game? And I know Greg Williams is not there at every team, but how do you bottle what happened here? Take that same motivation, because you need that going down the stretch here.
Well, I would think that probably you could look at any season, unless it's catastrophic, and look back and find at least 1 or 2 games where you had an offensive explosion, no matter how the season as a whole goes for it. Every week is a different week. Every week is a different challenge. Every opponent is a different challenge in the way they come into the game and what their urgency is. Without question, this is a Ram team that's folding its tent. I mean, they've lost, 5 of 6 now. They're not scoring any points. Probably Jeff Fisher will get fired after this season, and if he does, he might take Greg Williams with him, and that's certainly a probability. If he goes, the whole coaching staff would go.